All right, Scuba Kerrane is back in the saddle with us. We have some updates on Omnifantasy from Ben Gretch. We're going to dive into this rookie running back class a bit. And guys, it's a great time to be alive. Sky Moore and Ronald Jones are Super Bowl champions. Trust the process.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your site.
Jahmyr Alpha Play Chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally this boys. You're right.
A lot of people weren't buying the story, Pat, that you had this trip planned. Everyone thought you had fled the country, that you were never returning to do ship chasing. There was a lot of doubt when Ben and I were trying to come on here with a straight face and tell them the truth.
No, I mean, I did actually book it. I believe I booked it before I drafted the team, not even obviously well before the team came through. But I mean, think about it, conspiracy theorists. Why would I schedule the trip for the Super Bowl week when I could have gone to Arizona and basked in the glory of having taken down Best Ball Mania with all the people? I mean, they sent Denny. They sent Denny to Arizona. I could have been there.
Well, it's funny you say that because I remember when I was in New York this summer, and it had to have been like mid-June, maybe like right before you drafted that team, because we did the Club Top Shot show at the Underdog offices. And I remember you and I got a drink after, and you were telling me about this trip that you were planning and how hard it was to get like the flights to all sync up. So it was eerily right around the time I think you drafted that team.
It was, yeah. And yeah, the trip that we did logistically made no sense. Like in the sense of like the countries that we paired, Indonesia and Vietnam, and you kind of like, it would make way more sense to go to like Singapore or something based on kind of which airports all sync up, or Malaysia if we went anyway. But we, on the other hand, how many times are we going to get over to Southeast Asia? And we like Vietnam. So we'd been there back in 2017. We wanted to go back. And so in that sense, it made a ton of sense. So it was a great trip. Did a ton of scuba diving. I think we did like 30 dives in 8 days or something. I think
wow.
It was some crazy amount of time we spent in the water, like 35 hours, because our average dive time was like an hour and 10 minutes. So it was the type of thing where I felt like you do after a really delicious meal where you had like an extra dessert, you had enough, you had that extra drink. You got
31 dives
all
enough?
of it. Yeah, 35 was enough. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm ready to do something else. But it was awesome. We had like some real highlights. Probably the best thing was like there's these cleaning stations where these manta rays go to like all the little cleaner fish and shrimp and stuff. Like they like take the parasites and eat them off them. So they just like kind of swim and they hang out like over these rocks, and you can kind of just camp out like next to the rocks and just like watch them swim right over you. And they like come check you out. They're like, what the hell is this thing? So you just like, you're down there for like 20 minutes, just like watching these manta rays swim like right over you and stuff. And it's just a beautiful part of the world that we got to see. So yeah, it was a pretty good trip.
Any like scary thing? Like I get anxiety thinking about scuba diving. Like I'm fine with heights, but something about being deep underwater gives me a panic attack.
Me too, man.
There's sort of a both me and Brittany had kind of moments where you start to feel like out of control, because the game is sort of like the whole thing is just staying calm and just like keeping. For me, I go through my air faster than I should. Like if I was a better diver, I wouldn't go through air quite as fast. And if you go through your air too fast, not only do you have a shorter dive, but it ruins other people's dive. Because like if you have to go up, you have to go up with your buddy. Maybe you go up with the whole group. And so, the group's supposed to dive for 70 minutes and now you do for 50 minutes because you're breathing too much. So the way to do that, you breathe in nice, easy, in and out, kind of you're thinking about your breathing a lot. In a sense, it's kind of meditative because you're sort of like really, you're focusing on your breath for like an hour. But it gets in these situations, and I got in a situation where we got to a part of these islands where there was like some more current. And so in previous days, there had really been no current at all. But then as the trip went on, there were kind of more current as the dives went on. And I was we hadn't really used our GoPro much because it'd been like 3 years since we did any diving and we wanted to get comfortable. But we started to feel comfortable. I'm starting to use the GoPro. There's a huge school of fish and I was like filming it. And I like kind of followed the school of fish like up on sort of on top of this reef. And what happens is in some of these areas that do have current, up above on top of the reef, the current is much stronger than if you're down below because you're not protected anymore. So I'm like, oh, look at this fish. And I'm like filming them. And all of a sudden the current hits really hard. So now I'm kicking as hard as I possibly can. And I'm just going stationary like that. Like all of my effort is just keeping me in place. So then I just end up like holding on. I found like a rock formation. I like held on and I had a hook. You have like this thing called a reef hook. You can hook it on and it's connected to your equipment. So then you just get blasted by the current, but you'll stay there. So I've hooked myself on now, but I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not near anybody. So my group is like far away. And at this point, it's just kind of annoying because they're seeing like all these sharks and stuff, and I can't see them because they're too far away. So I'm just like, it's boring. But I'm also like stressed because I can't get where I'm supposed to get to, and I'm like 100 feet underwater. So it's kind of an issue.
Was one of the thoughts you had like, shit, I'm only gonna get to spend like a couple thousand of this $2 million?
No, that didn't strike me. That's like a particularly selfish way to process death.
Man, there's so much stuff I could have done with this money.
But there is like the thing of like, how the fuck am I gonna get back over? Like I legit can't like kick hard enough. But then one of the things that's annoying too about not being like a great diver is that the guides, they're all able to just like move through the water like so much faster. You're like, this current's the strongest thing on earth. And then the guy comes over and he's just like kicking around like a little fucking merman. And so he came and got me. And he was like, all right, he's like, like on 3, he's like hand signing to me, like on 3, we're taking hooks off and we're swimming. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we go and we're just like going and he's kind of pulling me a little and I'm just like kicking as hard as he can. And we got down to where everybody else were and where the sharks were, and we hook in and I'm there for a few minutes. And at that point is when I panicked. So I'm where I'm supposed to be, but I couldn't get a deep breath. And you are breathing fundamentally through a tube to a tank on your back, and you can't, there's like that feeling of like, I can't get a full breath of air. And also like, I'm not supposed to breathe my air. Like I've already wasted air kicking too hard. Like, and I'm like, I'm going to run out of air. And you just like start to like kind of,
Does anyone have like a water gun? Cause that's the point where I just offer myself. Like I can't handle that, dude. That sounds miserable.
That's was super stressful. And then, but then I kind of made a noise. Cause I was like to the point where I was almost like, I need to go up. And I was like, going to signal, like there's signals, like I've got a problem. I want to go up. But I was like, "Roo, roo, roo," and I got Brittany's attention, who was like near me, and she like looked over, like, what's the deal? And I was like, just getting her attention, I think subconsciously like chilled me out enough to where I could like get my breathing under control. And I was like, yeah, okay. She's there. Like, I'm not alone in this. Like if I needed to go up, we could go up. And I like calmed me down enough to where I was like, there is a shark right there. That's pretty sweet. So you kind of like, if you can just kind of get back into the moment, then you'll be okay. But there are moments that it can get a little hairy, but it's all about like just not freaking out, like the conditions. I guess the conditions could kind of, if you ran into a strong enough current, it could just completely screw you over. But for the most part, it's just about like, it's battling with yourself.
This air stuff, like, has always been a thing for me, like a phobia from like, if you watch like, Fear Factor or something and they do like the buried alive stuff, that stuff always gets me.
Oh God. Yeah.
Did I get you too? That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, that scares the hell out of me. That'd be
Okay,
awful.
but you were still able to do diving, so it's slightly different, at least, to be underwater. I mean, I'm a good swimmer, and so I wonder if I would be able to do this. Is what I'm trying to get to, because I do hate the concept. Like the idea of suffocating is probably the worst way I could go.
Well, so I would never. I never want to do cave diving, because in cave diving you could get lost and then you're in a cave and you'll die. So here, like the ocean, I'm in the ocean, but like the surface is above me. So there's sort of a calculation of like, I'm out. I'm going up, and I was in a situation where I could have ascended slowly enough to like not get the bends, but and the current wasn't so strong that I would have been like swept out into the open sea. So like I could have, and also like my guide was right there. Like we would have all gone up together, would have been totally fine. So I think like had I panicked even a little bit more, it would have been fine. I knew I was like under control enough to abort the dive, and the surface is right there. Like worst case scenario, if I had shot to the surface, there's a, in emergency situations, if you run out of air, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to basically go to the surface as fast as you can, and then you will go to an emergency chamber where you'll probably get the bend. So you have to then go deal with that.
Because of pressure, right?
Because of the pressure, yeah. You're like a Coke can you basically shook up and then open.
But you're not so deep that there's time for you to swim back before you would need a breath if you ran out of oxygen. I guess 100 feet.
No, you could get to the surface without.
Okay. I was thinking it was like deep, and you're like, all right, well, if I ran out of oxygen, I'm done. I can't get back to the surface. Like, aren't some of these dives like deep enough that you'd be screwed?
Yeah, I'm not. People do drown scuba diving,
right?
But
that's what I've heard.
You're not. So I mean, this will probably freak you guys out. The couple that
Jesus Christ, G.
Come on, Chris. The couple that we dove with. So there were 16 people on this boat. That not counting the crew, and we were in groups of 4 that were diving. And so it was me and Brittany and another couple from Canada. And the guy, he ran out of air on multiple dives. He just completely ran out of air and was breathing off his wife's tank and was like talking about how you can tell, like, I've never run out of air. And we've now done like just over 100 dives. And neither me or Brittany we've never run out of air. I haven't even come particularly close, even though like I said, making sure I don't go through my air too fast is like something I'm always thinking about. He ran out of air multiple times and was like talking about how you can tell, like, oh, it's like, oh yeah, those last breaths, they're really hard to you really have to pull to get the air, the very last breath of air out of the tank. That would freak me out. But you do that, you have a buddy. There's like, you're always supposed to be like close enough to your buddy so that if you have to breathe off their secondary, you can do that. So there's, there are protocols where if you do run out of air, you don't necessarily just have
breathe
to
off someone else. Yeah.
I mean,
what?
I'm telling you guys the harrowing stuff, but because you asked about it. But overall, it is I mean, first of all, you don't have to dive anywhere with current. You could just go somewhere where it's like just a beautiful reef with like very, very, no current at all. And honestly, at that point, it's like a meditation experience. It's just, you're going down there and you're just focusing on being in the moment, breathing slowly, conserving your air. And it's like, as long as you can just like stay zen, like that's extra time you get down there. And also like it's not like you're struggling to, because it's like if you start to think like, oh, I've got water in my mask and this is like irritating me, and then like a fish will like swim right by your face and you're like, whoa. So it's just kind of like, I feel like it's just it ends up kind of working itself out that way, where like something cool will come along.
Were you singing Under the Sea from Little Mermaid in your head the whole time? I just picture myself under the sea.
35 dives in, Gretch is still going the same tune the whole time. Yeah. I think I mentioned this to you, Pat, before, but if anyone, I read an incredible book a couple of years ago called Shadow Divers about these guys that would do these deep scuba dives to explore sunken ships. And that element of the bends coupled with kind of their desire to find the nooks and crannies on these abandoned ships and try to find treasure and buried things. And they're constantly feeling like this adventure pull, like they say something like overcomes them of like wanting to go in the next room and see something that maybe someone didn't get to, but also knowing that they're pushing their oxygen to the limits and trying to see how far can they push it without having to go up so quickly that they get the bends. And it sounded insane.
Yeah, that type of stuff's, I mean, there's other things where like we did a liveaboard 4 or 5 years ago. I was talking to this guy and he was talking about, you can go even deeper because you can't really go deeper than I'd say about 120 feet on like air, on regular air. But there are like, you can breathe like oxygen and helium mixes and oxygen. You can mix oxygen with other stuff that's not nitrogen, which is what gives you the bends. But you have to like, you only breathe those things at certain depths. So you have like all these meters that like tell you which tank to switch to. And if you like screw that up, you'll die. Like I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, why? Like just do the thing where you get to like go down and see some awesome fish. And it's generally not that dangerous.
But then there are people that hear you describe that and they go, why are you doing this? Why not just snorkel where you just have your snorkel like sticking out of, where I could just take my head out of the water?
Snorkeling sucks. Snorkeling is the worst. Honest to God, snorkeling. I snorkeled.
Everyone has a different limit.
It's exactly what a Vietnam elite
trip.
Scuba diver would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We snorkeled. There's like a little hatchery where like the sharks lay their eggs, and then so there's little baby reef sharks. They're actually not that little. They're like that big, or maybe no, they're pretty big. They're like, I want to say like 3 or 4 feet long, but they're in this like very shallow, like this little sandy area, and you can snorkel. And so it's cool to see them, but it's like getting water in my mouth, like snorkeling's lube.
All right.
You enjoy snorkeling? Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and now the chat's talking about Scuba. I assume this is a hybrid whatever. Scuba chasing needs to end, I think, right now. Gretch, what's going on with you? Did you enjoy your Super Bowl viewing experience?
I did. Yeah, the Super Bowl was fun. Yeah, I mean, it was a good game. It's a bummer of an ending, but yeah.
You were one of the sharps though that were on the Chiefs. You had stayed consistent. You were on the Chiefs versus the Bengals. You were on the Chiefs versus the Eagles.
I was on the Chiefs in my futures up to their highest alt win totals, which all hit as well. I think it was over 13.5, and they went 14-3. So even hit. Had the over on their win total, and then over like 11.5, 12.5, 13.5 alts, and they all hit.
Did you have any Sky Moore anytime TD props over at Stealing Lines?
I did not. No.
Wow, fraud.
I should have. That was a good one. I saw some people on the timeline that had it.
Sure. I want to hear some real sick shit. Once I got to a few days, probably 5 days into the trip, I started listening to fantasy football pods, and I was listening to Pete your showdown strategy stuff, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna play showdown. I have no way to get a showdown lineup in.
See, this is when everyone was like, oh, Pat's just gonna fuck off to Thailand and live there forever. It's like, no, he's way too much of a fantasy football sicko to just do that. Like,
I was so jealous of you getting to play 5-1 Mahomes. I was like, that sounds so smart. You get the 5-1 Mahomes strategy seems so great.
Didn't go great.
Yeah, I was going to say I would have rather been scuba diving, but I just heard the story, so I can't say I would have rather. Yes, we got our Skolansky bucks in on our 5-1 Mahomes teams for sure. Where did you watch the game over there, Pat, or were you back by then?
No, I watched the game in line in customs to get back into the US.
Wow.
I watched it on my phone. And then, yeah, in the cab home, and then I watched the fourth quarter at home.
That's crazy. That's great. Did you guys see the guy? I'll actually pull this up. There was a really funny tweet of someone took a photo on a plane during the Super Bowl, and all of the TVs had the game on, except for one person, and I will pull this up right now. So you see this, everyone's watching the game, and then you enhance on this spot right here, and some guy is watching Hitch on the plate. The only guy not watching the Super Bowl. I thought that was so incredible.
Every other person is watching the Super Bowl. That's amazing.
Man, so how long were you in customs for? Did you legit watch the entire game in that line?
No. Well, so Eva Air, no shout outs for Eva Air, which I guess is a Taiwanese airline. They did not have the Super Bowl offered as part of the flight. So it was the game had started, and then it was halftime when we landed. And so I was watching, I was like fast forwarding through the ads. So I think I got through maybe the first half, but being able to skip through the ads in customs.
You have $2 million now. You could have just moved your flight around so that you could watch the Super Bowl.
Well, in a way, we did move the flight around.
That's right. Super Bowl?
Well, so it was the thing of...
I mean, how poor, right? I mean, like we keep saying how rich. I mean, how poor, right?
Poor.
You get a fly during the Super Bowl on an airline that doesn't even have it? Oh, my God.
Yeah, well, that's true. That was a huge miss. So if we could have left earlier, we could have left Saturday night, and then I would have been home in time to see the Super Bowl, but then we would have not had Saturday night in Vietnam. So we left Sunday at noon Vietnam time, and then that got us home at like 8:30 here. So I guess I could have just left Monday.
Yeah,
that probably would have been smart. But honestly, finding a place to watch the Super Bowl in Vietnam would have been a little bit difficult.
To put a bow on it, did you have lots of good food over there?
Yeah. The food in Vietnam is crazy good. They have like all these herbs and stuff that we don't really have here. They're like versions of, I don't know. It's like they got this thing with a purple leaf. They have like all these. I'm like, what is this? This is amazing. All the food was crazy good. We did like this. There's like various beef noodle peanut dishes that we got. The stuff about like banh mi's and chicken pho, beef pho, like all that was amazing. They had this like catfish, like it was like a stir fry thing that you like kind of did at your table. So they're like, it was like catfish. I think it was like fried catfish that had been kind of like pre-cooked to a certain level. Then they throw it in, throw some oil in, and then throw like in a ton of like herbs and stuff. Again, like I'm not even sure, like dill, maybe some chives and just like a bunch of stuff. And then they give you like all these fixings and fish sauce and all that. And you kind of like make a little bowl with noodle and stuff like that. The food there was wildly good. That and the whole plan was like, let's do this dive trip. We'll be on the boat for 10 days. The food will be fine, but how good can it be? You're on a boat for 10 days, and then we'll go somewhere and we'll just eat like an incredible meal like every day, and that's what we did. So yeah, we went to a couple of nice restaurants as well, where you did like the full blown. I actually had just watched the menu, and so it kind of creeped me out a little bit because it was like full on like menu vibes with like the whole staff and everyone coming, and there's like deconstructed whatnot. I'm like, I hope they don't kill us.
What's the menu? Oh, that's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Menu. I don't normally do this, but I decided I didn't want to watch it, but I read the Wikipedia on it.
No, watch it. It's an incredible movie. I loved it.
It got such mixed reviews.
I thought it was awesome. It's a comedy.
Yeah. I mean, some people, it was very polarizing from all the reviews I read. And I was like, you know what? I just want to know what happens. And I read the Wikipedia.
It's a comedy horror because some of it's not funny at all. It's quite hard.
It's on HBO Max.
But is it like horror or like thriller horror? That's the thing. Like like the Jordan Peele stuff that everyone always. It's Jordan Peele, right? Did I miss his name?
Yeah, Jordan Peele.
Those are always called horror, but I can stomach his stuff. But like legit horror movies, I'm like, I'm not a big fan.
It's not. I wouldn't say it's that similar to Jordan Peele movie. It's more like a tongue-in-cheek horror movie. Like it's more of like a true horror movie than something like, I guess it's maybe closest to Get Out, but it's not. But Get Out's kind of more like has like straight up comedy beats, where this is like more like a really dark comedy mixed with like a true horror movie.
Got it.
Did you guys see Barbarian? That was the
No.
best horror movie of the year. Yeah, that movie fucks.
I don't like
Check
horror
out Barbarian. Also on HBO Max.
I'm gonna read the Wikipedia for
There you go. You could cheat me.
I mean, aren't all horror movies just like jumpy and like, I don't know, man. Like
this isn't that. The menu isn't jumpy at all. It's not.
Okay.
It's more of, I guess, a thriller.
Conceptual. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
see, I don't mind if it's not jumpy and it's just like gore and stuff. I don't mind that. Is that what the whole?
it's not
what
jumpy.
makes it
It's
a
just
horror?
dark. It's just really, really dark.
Okay.
Like it's about people trying to kill people. You know. So
Yeah, like The Shining, they called a horror, and I was like, that movie's like, there's nothing that happens in that. It's like not even that scary.
I wouldn't compare it to The Shining, but I see what you mean.
Yeah. Like, in
were you
terms
guys
of it
watching The
not
Last
being-
of Us? The Last
Yeah.
of Us is.
I just started like yesterday. That scares me.
What are
Legit,
you? So
like-
what episode? We won't do any spoilers. For
I
you,
think I'm
Ben.
on the third episode.
Okay, so you saw.
You saw the third episode?
Yeah.
I just started the third episode.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You'll
Literally
know.
just
I mean, the
started.
thord episode's the best one.
Yeah, it's a
And
good
then
one.
I have
most
not seen the
recent
third
one's
episode.
good.
I've watched 2 episodes. I watched the very beginning of the third, and that was it, I think.
Yeah.
But the first 2 episodes, there's a lot of like, oh, they're just moving around and like something could jump out at any point. And I'm just like, this is not fun. I want to relax when I watch TV.
Yeah.
I'm like
That's
stressed
not
out.
a show to relax
Yeah.
with for sure. The opposite.
I used to love, man. So I don't play a lot of video games these days because like I like them too much. And I'll
didn't
just
even know
play.
you're a video game guy.
Well, I'm not really. Since I would say
You're
I've
an
played-
I'm
addictive
talking about
personality
episode
guy.
3 too. Do I need to
Yeah.
just leave and go watch episode 3? Like, I'll meet you guys in a little bit.
you should watch episode 3 for sure.
Yeah, episode
It's
3 is
awesome. Yeah, I'm an addictive personality guy, and video games are like intentionally trying to get you to play them addictively. So, and it works on me. So yeah, I try not to play them a ton, but I love those jumpy horror games, man. Like there are this game called Dead Space. That's like you're like in a spaceship in the future, and these like crazy aliens with all these like limbs. They come like through the spaceship tunnels, and you have to shoot their limbs off. If you just shoot their bodies, it doesn't really work. So you have to like aim at their limbs as they're like coming at you. It's like horrifying and extremely fun. But The Last of Us has always been a game where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to break down and buy a system and play games again. And The Last of Us has been like at the top of my list of reasons to do that. And I haven't done it, but this show might break me. I might actually start playing video games again so I can play it. It seems like,
I mean, you got $2 million. You might as well.
I was gonna say, you should just get a Twitch account and just like stream video games like 12 hours a day. Onions and fucking Mountain Dew.
Who gives a shit?
Sounds lovely.
yeah, actually, you know what? If you guys don't hear from me, it's not because I'm in Indonesia. It's because I'm playing video games again.
Yeah. But seriously,
Ben,
do on Twitch. That'll work.
we got the launch of Omnifantasy 2023 ready to roll. We mentioned it on the show previously a couple times. Starting to see a little activity in the Omnifantasy channel in the Discord. Why don't you tell people what you got cooking up this year?
Yeah, I mean, we added a couple sports. World Baseball Classic is in March. Women's tennis, which was a popular one. The Women's World Cup. We don't have the Men's World Cup, obviously, because that was a part of the field last year. Women's World Cup replaces it this year. XFL. So the Omnifantasy Cup we did last year. Well, we did 2. We did the Ship Chasing Cup and the Omnifantasy Cup. The Ship Chasing, very exclusive, VIPs only. Each of us 3 had a league. And we have a winner in that. It was Kyle Robert, right? Did you say last time we talked about this, he also won the Dynasty League? Kyle
won the Dynasty League overall champ and the Omni overall.
Yeah. And the wild thing about that is that was only a 3-league contest, 3 12-team leagues. The Omnifantasy Cup was 12 12-team leagues. I'm pretty sure he scored more than any of the 12 Omnifantasy Cup leagues as well. So like his team was truly legit. This 550, I don't think anyone in the Omnifantasy Cup beat that. But yeah, we're gonna run that. We'll definitely run back the Ship Chasing Cup. I don't know. I mean, we can make those leagues a little bit bigger. I don't know how many spots we'll be able to fit if we only want to do 3 leagues for those. For the Omnifantasy Cup, that's open to everyone, even people who aren't, YouTube VIPs for Ship Chasing. But I'm going to make those 18 leagues. I'm going to make them smaller so that the draft can go quicker, first of all, because the draft's kind of slow down and back. And second of all, so we can add XFL and USFL too. Because everyone has to be able to draft one of the teams from every league. So any league larger than 8 teams can't fit these. So it'll be able to fit everything. It'll have all the leagues.
Is F1 staying?
I don't want it to, but I'm just going to throw everything in the pot and get a stew going.
All right.
Well,
I kind of like F1 being in.
Of course you do.
That's the other thing with it being 8 teams is F1's more viable with fewer teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the gap
There's like 6 drivers with viable odds, and the rest of it's like a mess. If it's
Although I would say,
teams, then you have a ton of. What were you gonna say?
Well, F1. This might be a terrible year to include F1. I think Verstappen's got to be he should be the 101 in every single league.
Yeah, he should. He has negative odds. He's the first one I've ever seen with negative futures odds. The way that they do their structure just doesn't work for Omni. I mean, I kind of want to remove it, but I know there's a lot of people that like it, so.
I like F1, but at the same time, it probably shouldn't be an Omni.
I think you got to save people from themselves, Gretch.
Take it out.
Yeah.
I would say don't have a default in. Like, if you maybe let people add it if they really want it, but it shouldn't default in.
All right. It won't be part of the Omni. Well, it's a question of whether it's going to be part of like the big cup and everything.
Hey, Gretch, you know what you need?
What?
3rd round reversal.
Yeah, people have asked about that. I've put that on a list for Kev, but we got a couple fixes we're still waiting to get done, but that would be a good one for sure. Hopefully next year.
But the thing, when people say take it out, like anyone spinning up their own private leagues, they can choose exactly what they want in it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll take it out from Omni. We'll leave it on the site if people want to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best.
For Omni Cup, I meant. Yeah.
So what are next steps for people who are interested?
I just gotta send out an email. So I just created a sign. Last year I did a Google form. I just had people sign up with their name, Twitter handle, email for the larger Omni Cup. I have created that again. I just put it in the private chat, Pete. I don't have.
Do you want me to drop it in the chat and put it in the show notes?
Chat. If people want to start signing up there, feel free to do so. I mean, I think we'll probably start by about Monday.
It looks like something's wrong with the form, Ben. It says it's no longer accepting responses when I click it. Paul, we will be sharing stuff. Like I said, Ben has a Google form, and we will also do some ship chasing leagues, and then you're free to spin up any other leagues with your friends. That's the beauty of it. You just need the Twitter account, right, Ben?
Yep. Yeah. That's how you sync it up. Got to have a Twitter account. It's same old stuff.
And when is the optimal time to draft? What's the deadline you're trying to get it in before for on the sports calendar?
Well, really the optimal time, it used to be right after the Super Bowl. Super Bowl's a week later now. So now we're kind of already on the late end of that. This is just me being a little bit behind. And because we had a World Baseball Classic, that actually starts March 8th, and it's really quick. It's done by 2 weeks later. It's during spring training, but it's all the countries. It's like they tried to make a World Cup version for baseball. They've only been doing it for a few years. They haven't done it for 6 years now because it was supposed to be on a COVID year on 2021. The last time they pushed it back a couple of years. So we haven't had this for a long time, but it is a very fun contest. You have Team USA, you have the Dominican Republic is the other favorite. Puerto Rico, there's a couple, and all the stars play in it. The Team USA is loaded. It's one of the favorites. The Dominican team has all the best Dominican players. And anyway, that starts the 8th, and it's a pretty quick tournament though, because they're just doing it through spring training. They don't want to tax the pitchers too much and everything before the MLB season. They can only throw so many innings, so it's hard to do this type of international tournament for baseball, a sport where how many games you play is going to, ultimately matter quite a bit. So it's really quick. It'll be done by like March 21st. If you want to include that, you got to be done in the next like 3 weeks, which is why these Omnifantasy Cup drafts are probably going to start in the next week. So we have a couple weeks to draft before that kicks off March 8th, 3 weeks from today.
Sweet. Yeah, we will keep you guys posted. If you guys aren't subbed to, I believe in the show notes, I put a link to the Substack as well, where Ben will send out updates and we'll obviously keep you posted on the show as well. Pat, people are wondering if you're okay over there.
Well, I am fighting something, and I've been coughing up something.
Okay, there you go. Well, we will. It might be a little bit on the shorter side today as Pat powers through whatever.
I did also see in the chat that apparently Dead Space has been re-released.
Yeah,
and so yeah.
So you just ordered an Xbox.
I've been considering that, and then I was also looking up to see if The Last of Us is available on PC.
Goodness, you're basically turning into a Davis Maddock level multitasker while doing shows now.
Yeah.
So you said you're grinding pods over in Vietnam. I know. Didn't you do before you went on your trip? You did a little tweet storm, dare I say, about the was it the rookie running backs you had started to dive into?
Yeah, I think I only did one tweet. I wouldn't call it a storm, but
was it a
but
thread?
Yeah, was it a thread? I feel like
Sure
it was one tweet.
I mean, I'll go check.
It was a very short thread if it was a. Oh no!
Pete,
now pulling receipts.
Accepting responses now, by the way, that form. If people want to.
Okay, I'll drop it in. Anyways, talk to us about this rookie class. Obviously, everyone and their mother knows about Bijan. Is there more to be excited about in this class?
Yeah. So I listened to your guys' discussion. First of all, before we go any further on this rookie class, I do want to defend audiobooks. They are books. I don't know why you guys are such so sight focused. You can only absorb content through your eyes.
The question was, do you count it as reading? I said you can tell people you read that book because you consumed it, but I would not count that as reading because you're not.
No, you're saying you can't. If you read a book, did you read that book? And you seem very on the fence.
If someone printed out a transcript of the Ship Chasing podcast and said, I read the latest episode of Ship Chasing, you wouldn't say I listened to it. It just technically you didn't do that thing.
I know, but there's like there was just a little air of haughtiness of, oh, did you read it though? Did you really read it, or did you listen to it on an audiobook? Doesn't count.
I mean, there should be an air of haughtiness. Why?
Why?
Defend that.
Why?
Because you didn't read the fucking.
Because you have to use your eyes. Why are eyes superior to ears?
We're not saying you didn't consume the information. We're just saying you didn't literally consume it.
You didn't do it right. You didn't read it with your eyes.
Pay someone to read things to our ears. All right, we have to read it with our own eyes. We don't have butlers to read things for us.
There's a service called Audible. You don't need a butler.
Are you gonna have somebody read your emails to you now? Is that it? You're gonna have, I know you're an audio learner. Pat's gonna be paying somebody to walk around with him and read his text to him all day long.
By the way, if someone transcribes an entire episode of Ship Chasing, prints it out, and reads the whole thing, I'll give you a free hoodie, Ship Chasing hoodie, but you have to document it on Twitter. All right, Pat, you are right. It was just one tweet, but it was 4 little sentences within one tweet. So in my head, it was like a thread, but it wasn't a thread.
It wasn't a thread. I should have used an asterisk in this just to really
just go full Silva. I miss the Silva asterisk tweets. He doesn't do those as much anymore.
What was the one I did with Fitzpatrick that you just hated so much? It was a Jahmyr Brown tweet. So it was a bad tweet in the first place. Anyway. I did something where it was like I put a note in that I said like perfectly aligns with his skill set or something, and you just like it broke some Twitter rule for you that you were just like, what the fuck are you doing?
I vaguely remember that, but I can't remember the specifics. I got to be the Twitter police out there.
So another thing that I brought up the audiobooks thing because that was one of 2 things that I wanted to push back on while I was out. The other thing was the Jahmyr Gibbs point where, Ben, I think you were the one saying that you felt like maybe he's getting pulled up by, excitement by Bijan Robinson. I wonder if maybe he's getting pushed down because he's very clearly not at Bijan Robinson's level, which I agree with. And I don't think anyone is going to be kind of brave / dumb enough to be like, you know what? Gibbs is the RB1 because he's like so clearly not the RB1. Bijan's the consensus RB1. He should be. There's not really going to be any case otherwise throughout the entire offseason, I don't think.
Someone will make that case. You are understating the craziness on Twitter.
You're right, but I don't think that it'll have any traction.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Gibbs strikes me as a guy who's about the level of prospect of like a Travis Etienne or Breece Hall. And I think he should be like a 4th round pick. So to get him now, he's going in the late 5th in the big board. I mean, that's nice. I think he's a pretty strong value. He's a very good pass catcher. He's a solid rusher. Draft capital is not a concern with him. I think he's live to go in the 1st round if he has a really strong combine. Very, very likely to go in the 2nd round. Obviously coming out of a huge program. So it's not like, he's going to get lost in the shuffle. I liked Rachaad White a lot last year, as everybody knows, post-draft, but also pre-draft, I was into him. But I was like, there's worry there of like, is he not even going to get drafted? Could he completely fall out of the mix? JUCO transfer guy who didn't end up at a big school. Gibbs is coming out of Alabama. So I think he's like a kind of a smash right now. Only by like maybe, let's say, a round or 2 compared to where he'll end up. But he does strike me as someone that is probably – this is the cheapest we're going to get him. And he has a really, really strong fantasy profile. He's a pass catcher, and he's big enough. He's about 200 pounds, and I think he's going to test pretty well.
Yeah. And he's been going, let me know in the chat, guys, like 6th, 7th round, I think, in the big board drafts is where Jahmyr Gibbs has been going these days.
Yeah, I joined a slow, and I think he's got an ADP of 59.
I made that comment about him getting pulled up when I looked at an early board, and I wrote it up over at Signals that had him at 312.
Oh, okay.
This is a much different price when we start talking about the 5th, 6th round. It's definitely. I mean, I like that. That sounds like a great price.
The 3rd round, so that's like where, like, remember, like Pete, you were talking about Breece Hall last year in the summer and being like, he probably should be more like the 3rd round.
That was my point in my write-up. Yeah. Was like JT and Breece Hall got into the 3rd at various times for a bit. JT ended up rising, I guess, at the very end, even to the early part of the 3rd. But they spent a lot of time in the 4th and the 5th, both of them.
Yeah.
And so to see Gibbs start out in January at 312, I was like, is this just being anchored to, the fact that in that same draft, Bijan went like 10th overall? And so now the 2nd rookie goes in the 3rd round? Because we didn't see this in past years. But the fact that his ADP now on these underdog drafts is more like 59 is a lot later. I'm more with you, where I'm like, he's probably a value at this point, right?
I think so for sure. And I think like if he were to get to the late 3rd, that'd probably be fine. Like
That's
he's a prospect.
Like
yeah. Assuming everything comes through the draft capital and he tests well and everything. I think that's probably efficient. So yeah, I think he's a pretty big value right now, at least as far as the big board ADP goes. And Bijan also strikes me as a dude who's like, I don't know. He's 14.7 here. Like that's obviously, it's a rookie running back. It's expensive. You don't typically pay 1st round prices for rookie running backs, but like, I think it's fine. And if anything, like he's probably gonna be more expensive later.
Yeah. I was thinking that I was talking through that with Spags earlier today on Splash Play of just thinking like, I think Bijan where he's going is fine. I also just don't know. Like he can't get like probably higher than like 1.9.
Yeah, he can't get more expensive than this. There's going to be some point this offseason, whether his combine isn't quite as good as people expect, or there's rumors that his draft capital won't be as good as expected, or his actual draft capital isn't as good as expected, or his landing spot isn't as much of a smash as expected, or there's competition rumors in July and August with whatever backfield he's in. There's going to be some point where he goes lower than this. This is really aggressive.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Like, even if I think the hype train would really get going if he went, you see him mocked to the Bills, even some Chiefs in there. Like the hype train will get going if he goes to one of those elite offenses.
Yeah. Then he could go 7th or 8th, maybe. He could go a little bit higher than this, but like there's good names ahead of him. I think this is really frothy. This is like Javonte Williams early last offseason. At the end of the year, everyone's like, I think Javonte Williams should be a top 3 overall pick. And then as soon as Melvin Gordon re-signed, everyone's like, nah, he's a late second.
He's probably going to be a first-round pick, though. And, I hate doing this because this is almost always wrong. But, like, it is sort of the thing of, like, if a team's taking him that high, they're going to install him as a workhorse. But he also does profile as a workhorse. Like, that's the whole reason you would take him. He's like Saquon type of dude, where it's like he can do everything. So it's sort of like the Najee case, but he's good.
Do you think he can go ahead of like Devontae Adams?
Yeah, I mean, who are the Raiders going to have a quarterback?
Yeah, to Ben's point, though, I think it's more likely that his ADP drops over the summer than rises. I mean, think about how spooked people got by Michael Carter for Breece Hall. I mean, people were talking themselves into that being a full-blown timeshare. And I realize people view Bijan differently than Breece Hall, but like still, people will find anything to freak out about.
There's going to be something. I do think it's possible that in August he is a clear first-round pick. He might even be the RB1 because there's not really a clear RB1. Like if everything hits right, he could be the on average the first running back drafted. But I think at some point in this process, he's going to fall. This feels like the early offseason hype that will fade a little bit.
I think you guys are right. I think this is probably you. Yeah, you've convinced me that he's probably going to fall a bit. Like on average, like his average scenario, he'll fall a bit, even if there's somewhere he rises. I do think that this is like a pretty solid price for him, though, and I think we're probably rooting for a bad situation, a bad landing spot, because like he does profile as a guy where it just doesn't matter. Right. Like he's going to go displace Breece Hall. Oh no, Michael Carter. Michael Carter was nothing. Like as soon as it's like, once we knew how good Breece Hall was, it's like, the guy could have been way better than Michael Carter. He's still going to be backing up Breece Hall.
Yeah.
I think Bijan, obviously no one's a sure thing, but he's a pretty damn good prospect. Like there's a very high likelihood that he just displaces Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack. Remember, like, people weren't that excited about that landing spot. I think we want something like that, actually. I think we want some ambiguity there so we can bet on him at a slightly lower price.
When Zeke landed with the Cowboys, he had this great offensive line, and it was very clear that they were going to give him 25 carries a game as a rookie. He went, what was it, like 5th, 6th overall on average that year?
Yeah.
I mean, he was top half of the first round. He wasn't.
And that's what kind of had me thinking.
But
that's what had me thinking Bijan could go even higher. But that's the nut landing spot and the nut outcome, which obviously he might not get.
And I was thinking about this comp too that John mentioned. Like if Bijan gets Najee's rookie year usage, he might be the 101. Like if he has a Najee situation and then he's going to be obviously better than Najee. I mean, you can tell yourself a story where it's a total smash strictly because of workload. And there's just not too many of these guys that are getting this full blown workload.
Yeah, it also really feels like a year where running backs changing over in a major way. Like even Eckler after the season he just had, like, are we that confident?
No.
New OC, like they got to get the ball downfield more. Moore wasn't throwing a ton to the running backs. Like this could be a pretty different situation for Eckler.
It's a great point. Because last year we talked about this, the second, third year or round running backs were all like 27-year-old and older. That's what you're saying on Eckler. And then the rest of this group. And then the young guys, Kenneth Walker got hurt, not like super bad. Breece Hall got hurt. ETN's already had a major injury. Javonte Williams. All the young running backs we've seen hit have already had major injuries as well. So there's a lot of uncertainty on those names. We haven't seen enough in their first 2 seasons. There hasn't been like a clear changing of the guard of like new young running backs. And the old ones they're getting older. I mean, that whole crop is old as hell.
Even McCaffrey's kind of old.
Yeah.
Like for, the legendary running backs stuff that I do, like he's old for that. It's not like Eckler just did it at, I think, what the age McCaffrey's going to be. So it's not like McCaffrey can do it, but it's still not ideal. And so I do think that some of these young running backs are going to just like, maybe even if they don't produce like legendary seasons, they're going to burst on the scene in a way where like the points are coming from the youngest guys in the league. I think this could be one of those years where, like, I mean, Breece Hall, even coming off the ACL tear, is extremely interesting to me.
If Bijan's what you're saying, it would not surprise me if he's the RB1 this year at all. I mean,
no,
that's
it shouldn't
just
surprise. Yeah. He kind of has the profile. Like, he's 220 pounds. He's like, if you look basically at anything, he's hyper elusive. His yards per out run aren't off the charts, but they're very good. Good breakaway runner. He's going to have really good draft capital. He operated basically as a workhorse, not like off the charts workhorse, but there's no real holes to poke. He looks awesome. Like, he's going to be good. He's going to be good. So it's just, I guess, a matter of, where he lands, how much work you can project right away. But he does profile as the type of guys who are probably going to break those type of reasonable projections. So you probably want him to land in a spot where people have to project too conservative, because if he lands in a Najee spot, where people project like a 75% snap share type of situation, like he probably will have that.
Is he going to be the 101 in Superflex Dino, or is a quarterback going to go over him?
I think so. I don't know yet, but it seems like maybe he will be. Like, I think I have the 101 and the 102 in that auction league where I'm trying to out Tank Davis and succeeding. And I think I'll just take Robinson 101 and then grab one of the quarterbacks 102, which is like kind of how I'm thinking about that. He just seems like Saquon, JT, that level of like, I mean, we were obviously all collectively too low on JT because of the CEH going to the Chiefs and stuff. Sean held firm, of course he did, but I got thrown off the scent, as did some others. And it's just like, that's, I think, a really strong reminder that like there's just not that many prospects who come along that are kind of bulletproof at the running back position, and Robinson is one of them.
Guys, I'm having a moment right now because as we're talking about the age of the running backs, I looked up how old last year's like top of the running back class was. Of the top 7 running backs, 6 of them are 26 or older. The only one that's not is Josh Jacobs. He just turned 25. The 8th running back was Ramondre Stevenson. He's actually almost 25 because he was a little bit older.
Wow.
Tony Pollard is 25. He's 9th. Cook, Mixon, Fournette after that. Jamal Williams, all older. Then it was Miles Sanders, Alvin Kamara. You get down to Najee Harris at RB16, I think is the next one that is sub 25. And he also is going to turn 25 in the next month. Both Ramondre and Najee Harris turn 25 in the next month. In a month from now, there won't be a running back that finished higher than RB17 that is younger than 25 from last year, and what their current age will be a month from now. That's insane.
Yeah.
That is insane.
So you have, obviously, Bijan's in his own tier, and you say Jahmyr Gibbs is in his own tier. Who do you think should be the third running back off the board, rookie running back in these early drafts?
So this is something I'm trying to get better at, which is that I think later I'm going to be in a Zach Charbonnet bear. But now I think I should be a bull, because I think he's sort of like Dameon Pierce or Trey Sermon or someone like that who, like, in August and September, I'm not going to be that interested in drafting. But he seems pretty locked in terms of like some draft capital. Like, I from what I'm looking at, like, it be pretty surprising if he fell like any later than the 5th or something. And he might go in like the 2nd or 3rd. So I don't think there's like any like catastrophic situations for him, or low likelihood. He's big. He's a hard runner. He's like the type of dude where you watch him and he's fun. Like, you're going to have a fun time watching Zach Charbonnet highlights. He runs through people. He looks kind of like Tyler Algier, maybe a little bigger. But he's like that kind of like downhill runner. He's not he's not a zero as a receiver. He's not like a great receiving prospect, but definitely not as total zero there. And he strikes me as the kind of guy who's probably going to be settling into like a 6th or 7th round ADP, assuming he gets decent draft capital. And even if he doesn't, he'll probably be in the early double-digit rounds, kind of like Algier. And you're getting him now at like the end of the 10th. So I feel like why not get your Charbonnet now if you're the type of drafter who's not going to enjoy chasing like a mostly a 2-down skill set rookie running back into, maybe the back end of the dead zone.
His I scooped up the RotoViz rookie guide the other day, and his box score scout sims are hilarious. Like, this is the mixed bag here: Zach Moss, Cam Akers, Le'Veon Bell, Kenneth Dixon, and Amir Abdullah.
That's great.
That's such a random ass mix.
I mean, if you got Le'Veon Bell in there, then it's it's a thing.
Right, then you could squint.
Zach Moss is an interesting one because he is kind of like, he's got the size, but he's not like Moss was more kind of like a little bit of a dancer. He like tries to spin off dudes and stuff. Like Charbonnet definitely powers through.
I like the way you say Charbonnet. I mean, I think you need to put your pinky up.
Yeah.
Is it Charbonnet or is it Charbonnet? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Charbonnet.
I'm gonna say it like Chardonnay.
I mean, we just need to get glasses of white wine and drink them as we talk about them.
The chat wants some tank talk. I'll just list off his comps. Another Cam Akers, Shane Vereen, Jamal Charles, Michael Carter, Javid Best. That gives me a much better picture, clearer picture of who he is.
I'm not really into this guy so much.
Okay.
I think Bigsby. Draft capital seems somewhat uncertain. There's like a lot of dudes like this guy. There's like a lot of like guys who seem kind of Chase Edmonds-y or DeAndre Washington-y. That mold.
Okay, but his name is Tank Bigsby. Can we? I mean, this is the Sky Moore moment from last year.
Sickest fucking name I've ever heard.
It's the sickest fucking name I've ever heard.
He's not like an elite pass catcher. He's pretty elusive, but I don't know. It's more like Darwin Thompson-esque, where it's like he's shifty, but maybe, or Amir Abdullah is a pretty good comp, where it's like he's shifty, but maybe not going to be an awesome pass catching running back. And then if you don't have draft capital with that, it gets hairy. I think like Charbonnet seems like he's going to get the draft capital. So I would say he's probably the RB3 for me. This guy A-Chain, Devin A-Chain, is like, I don't really get him like when I watch him, but I also don't really like scout.
5'9", 185.
Yeah. He's like a speed back. He doesn't look to me to be like all that fast, but I was reading that people think he might run like a sub 4.3. So like, I guess we'll see. Like, I would trust those reports over my highlight scouting, but he's, I think, going to be highly dependent on a good combine. He's definitely someone who, like, if he doesn't have draft capital that people are assuming he will have, he's probably overdrafted a little bit, but at the same time, in the big board, he's not expensive. He's ADP of 158.7. If he runs anywhere near 4.3, if he runs a 4.3 flat, I mean, that's a crazy ADP to get a guy like that. So I think he's someone to definitely target. Going to be boom bust, and he's like a undersized speed back. So even if he does have an awesome combine and does get great draft capital, he could totally bust. But I don't know. It feels like most of the risk is kind of baked in.
How undersized?
Like 185?
Yeah.
Okay.
It said he's 5'9", 185.
Yeah. But pretty good breakaway numbers. Solid pass catcher. His overall production profile is decent.
By the way, the chat has asked a couple times for this year's Sky chat. It's important to understand it takes a lot of time, a lot of grinding for us to come up with this year's Sky Moore.
With the biggest bust.
With last year's Laviska Shenault. You think this happens easily. It doesn't happen easily. We got to put a lot of effort into this.
We got to put a lot of effort in, and then they will win a Super Bowl. By the way, in the Open, I mean, let's put some respect on the fact that Ronald Jones now has 2 Super Bowl rings. Thank you very much.
Yeah. The dude is a fucking born winner.
I mean, everywhere he goes.
This guy has a nose for a Super Bowl ring. He doesn't have a nose for the end zone.
keep an eye on whose practice squad he ends up on, because they're winning it all.
Week 18, he scored a TD, guys. I think he was really the key.
Dude, I absolutely love Melvin Gordon and Ronald Jones just partying their ass off, celebrating Super
good
Bowl
for
wins.
them.
It's so sick. But like to your point on the prices right now, like Jahmyr Gibbs, went in the 5th round of this draft, and then you had Charbonnet. Is that how they said in the chat? You're supposed to say it. It's a hard T, they said.
Charbonnet. Okay.
Yeah. And then, but after that, like everyone's really cheap as far as these rookie running backs. Like the 2 we just talked about, Tank and Devin, go in the 15th round here. So like if you can squint with any of these guys, Zach Evans goes in the 17th. Like, I don't know, all these prices
load
just
up on them. Yeah.
generally seem fine to me.
But Charbonnet, you have to drop a couple of rounds if his name is actually Charbonnet as opposed to Charbonnet. Like that's a problem.
I don't think we can do Charbonnet. I take it all back.
Yeah.
I think I might have been being trolled. This was like when I had what was the time Connor got me with it's in the intro, whatever.
A-Chain strikes me as a dude like it could be over. This price could be over within a couple weeks because of the combine. Like, I don't think Bigsby or some of these other guys are. I mean, maybe it's likely that someone has a shockingly good combine, but
Chat's
A-Chain,
us, dude. We're getting killed in chat for the Charbonnet conversation.
Well, I got to kill the chat because his real name is Zachariah, and so all you guys saying Zach are just being really disrespectful to his family. So if you're gonna come at us, you better not miss either.
Zachariah Charbonnet is a pretty damn good name.
Zachariah Charbonnet is how we're doing it. Okay.
Yeah, I like that name. That's a good name.
Put some respect on it.
Charbonnet is French for bell cow. That's right. I'm continuing to say Charbonnet until I hear Charbonnet.
I think that's right. They were saying.
No, I'm sure they're right.
For getting.
I'm sure they're right.
And we will put a tilde on the end of his name too. I think just for good measure.
A-Chain is right though, and that's a fun way to pronounce that name.
Yeah.
A-C-H-A-N-E. A-Chain. It's pretty sweet.
Zach Evans, boring name, real boring ass name right there.
Dwayne McBride, another guy to keep in mind.
Okay, speak on that.
He's out of UAB. He another guy who's very elusive. Looks kind of more like probably like a Miles Sanders type of dude. Kind of more of a 2-down guy. I don't think we're going to get a ton of pass catching. Maybe like a Gus Edwards type of guy. So like, nothing like crazy exciting. But he seems like his draft capital's in decent shape. He's 216, decent size. And so it's kind of like a guy who's probably going to have a role on early downs. He's like going very late, 205.7 ADP. He shouldn't be free. He's, let's see. ESPN has him as their overall rank 108. So, I mean, maybe we're talking about a 4th or 5th round pick, early down skill set, but there's a chance he's a day 2 guy. I mean, to get someone like that at the very end of your draft seems like free money to me.
Yeah, he went in the 18th in this one here, right after Trey McBride. McBride on McBride action there. All this has made me want to do is just blindly throw darts at all these running backs late in these drafts.
I think that's probably good. Like, there's some depth to this class, like in a dart throw sense. Like, I don't think there's much there's not a lot of this guy's a really solid bet, but not a great bet. I think there's two. I think Robinson's a great bet. Gibbs is a very, very good bet. And then there's like some not bad bets, but those not bad bets list is decently long.
And also all of the alternatives in this range of drafts right now are guys that we have serious questions about from a skill perspective, probably have serious questions about their role. There's I think Pete, to your point about just throwing darts on all these guys from a strategy perspective, I think it makes a ton of sense. Some of them are not going to hit. Not every rookie running back even plays. A lot of the guys we were drafting in this range last year, they get drafted in the 4th round or 5th round on some team and they get 5 carries all season. That will happen in a few spots. But there's a lot. So there's a lower floor, but there's a lot higher ceiling, I think, than like Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Like, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire
Yeah.
going to have a fifth-year breakout? Like, I mean, he's not a good team, but you're going to – I mean, I just think it makes a lot of sense to be taking those shots.
Pat, I'm trying to benchmark Gibbs relative to Bijan. If you combined this class and last year's class, would Gibbs be behind or ahead of Kenneth Walker?
Ahead.
He would? Okay.
Yeah. For me. But I wasn't the highest on Walker. I think Gibbs would be closer to Hall. Like I think I would have had Hall over Gibbs, but not by a ton.
Right. Okay.
But that he would have been, to me, I would have been like, though, that's a tier, and then it's Walker and a tier. Because Walker's like more of a 2-down guy. Gibbs has got the pass catching chops. I mean, Gibbs looks like an awesome pass catcher. He's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember, like, were people down on Walker because of Penny, or were they kind of just not as enthused about him as a prospect? I'm trying to remember why his ADP was as late as it was compared to, say, Gibbs right now.
He didn't catch any passes. Remember, we had to talk about how he caught passes in high school. People were watching film of him in high school.
Yeah. Horrible pass catching profile, but also remember there's so much Seahawks pessimism. Like Leone was really down on their offense and just projecting them to like just be completely horrible. And, you know, Geno obviously played way better than people thought he would. So I think that helped a lot. Plus Walker's, I mean, you don't know, like this guy with this great rushing profile in college, like, is it going to translate? Like it did. He's a really good rusher. So,
yeah. And then would you say Charbonnet then more in line with at least how he should be valued, like where, because he's going more where Walker was going, at least
this time last year, Pete, it was Brees, Walker, and Isaiah Spiller, and then Spiller had the bad combine and fell out. And then it was just the other two. Spiller fell out pretty much after the combine, not by draft time, just after the combine. But there are, I mean, that's the cautionary tale, right?
Yeah. Leone jumped the shark on Kenneth Walker is what we're trying to say.
Yeah. Are we allowed to sell alcohol on our merch? Because I'm thinking we could get like a Chardonnay called Charbonnet.
Yes.
And
probably not alcohol itself, but maybe like a wine cooler or
a wine koozie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charbonnet.
There you go. We'll figure it out.
I think Walker was probably like a much better pick in the range where he was going compared to the same range for Charbonnet. Is that what we're doing? Zach compared to Zach. But like my thing with him is that I'm trying to like, do I want to take a stand against this guy all season who I think I'll probably like with Dameon Pierce, I was like, this feels a little pricey now relative to what I think he should be priced at. And then his price steadily moved up the entire offseason, and I always felt that way until the very end where I was like, this is crazy high compared to what I think he should be priced at. So I'm just trying to get ahead of that more with Charbonnet.
I mean, were you wrong on that? Like, Dameon Pierce was okay, but like,
yes.
He played for the Texans. He only averaged what? He didn't run. You were?
The people who got Dameon Pierce in the 13th round won $1 million drafting that value. Like, that he was a smash early on.
Oh,
he was a smash early on.
I meant when Pat was saying as he kept moving up out of like when he was in the 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, and then going in the 4th, he didn't return value on that.
No, he didn't. But I want to be right twice. I want to fade Charbonnet later and bet on him now. Like I want to play the market. So that's my feeling on him. Like if you pull him up, it's just very difficult for me to imagine people not, especially people who know how to pronounce his name. Like he's just, they're going to like him. You know, he's just like a fun dude. He runs through guys. He's big. He looks like an NFL running back. Like I just have a hard time seeing him like not doing well in the off-season chatter plus the training camp hype. Like this, he's gonna, you know, he's like AJ Dillon type of back. That might be another comp. Maybe he's not quite as big as Dillon, but I think he's like that powerful downhill runner that is gonna create some fans. So I don't know. I mean, if he's in the draft capital, seems pretty locked in with the floor. So it's like, how is this price going down from here?
Yeah.
I guess he bombs the combine. He runs like
that's what Revolt said
Yeah.
here. If he bombs the combine, and it's also it'll be one of the fun things I feel like every single year, specifically in fantasy circles, like we get more of a magnifying glass on every step of the process. And it does mean people are getting collectively sharper, but it also means people overreact to minor things in even bigger ways.
Sure.
Because we put this like massive importance. And I think we'll see some crazy swings from like the combine and people just freaking the hell out because it doesn't confirm exactly what we hoped they'd do there. Or whatever.
Yeah. And to be clear, like this is a player who I'm like not ultimately that excited about his profile in Charbonnet. So I wouldn't be like hammering him right now, but it's more of a in an overall portfolio of drafts that I'm going to be doing through the end of this coming summer. This is probably where I'm going to be getting the prices I like the most on this guy. That's where my head's at.
Someone mentioned, do you have any thoughts on Bijan's teammate, Roshan Johnson? Some people seem to like him a good bit. And I always am intrigued by those guys who were buried behind a super talented guy, but also had some interesting production themselves.
I don't have a ton of thoughts on him. He's like that's the type of dude where like the way I tend to do this stuff, he's not ever going to look good. Like Miles Sanders looks like horrible in my stuff because he was also stuck behind Saquon. So I guess it'll come down to the draft capital, but his draft capital doesn't really look that good. And Sanders obviously was a second round pick, even after not doing much until Saquon left. So I'm open-minded, but not the type of guy that I want to be betting on unless the NFL really likes him. That's kind of where I'm on him. I did want to mention there are a couple guys. Sean Tucker was a guy. Oh, nice. The chat's ahead of me on that. Yeah, Sean Tucker I think is pretty interesting. I would put him kind of in this general tier with like McBride and A-Chain and Charbonnet. Tucker is kind of one of these backfield dominator guys. Like I bet he's going to end up being a big Blair Andrews guy. Could be kind of like the Eno Benjamin of this class. Not like doesn't do anything like crazy good, but had an off the charts career backfield dominator rating. I believe his peak backfield dominator rating was 97%. I'm probably stealing Blair's thunder here. But he's definitely kind of a well-rounded, kind of all-around type of skill set dude. 205, has enough size. And the type of guy that we're probably going to be betting on, even if he is like a 6th or 7th round pick. And so his upside in terms of draft capital is probably not fully baked in. Although his ADP is 140, so maybe he's like a little pricier than you'd like compared to like McBride, who is going to the very end of drafts. But he's definitely someone to be mixing in, I think.
Some interesting comps too. David Montgomery, Duke Johnson, Dion Lewis, Marlon Mack, and Marcus Lattimore from the RotoViz box score scout sims there.
Marcus Lattimore, an all-time what if?
Yeah. Let's see. A couple of people want to know about Spears. Any thoughts on Spears?
That was the other guy that I was going to mention. He's only 194, but definitely rates well in elusive rating, good breakaway runner, solid yards per out run, kind of all around well-rounded guy. Sort of someone he's smaller than a Bigsby, but like someone I was thinking of a little bit when I was mentioning there's like kind of lots of guys who are like pretty solid all around type of prospects. He's on the smaller side. I think he's kind of a Michael Carter, Ito Smith.
That's one of his comps. Yeah.
Yeah. Kyron Williams, Elijah Mitchell, if he's fast. So it's sort of like is he fast? Because then maybe he's Elijah Mitchell. Is he slow? Then maybe he's Kyron Williams. But Giovanni Bernard would be like another guy that he kind of reminds me of. And I think he's someone that also kind of makes sense in the late double-digit rounds to be mixing in. He's got an ADP of 155 in the big board. That seems fine. I think after that, I think it gets like a little bit tougher. Then it starts to feel like more like true dart throws, like at that point, maybe I'd just be going for guys who I think are undervalued in terms of their draft position, their projected position not being fully baked in. I don't think there's many profiles after that I really like all that much. It's running back, so sometimes guys with whatever profiles, like Pacheco, right? They land in the right spot, even without draft capital, and it doesn't matter. And obviously we don't have a combine yet. Maybe some of these guys are super fast, but like this guy, let's see, Penny McIntosh is like a scat back type who like his profile's okay. He's like maybe like an honorary mention type of guy. But then there's this dude, Deuce Vaughn, who's got an okay profile, but he's 176 pounds. So like, I don't know, especially in half point PPR. I'm not sure about that. So I would say it's like Robinson, Gibbs, then maybe like a bigger tier of A-Chain, Charbonnet, McBride, Tucker, and Spears. And then I would probably make bets on guys where I feel like their draft capital's not being fully accounted for.
All right. There it is. Our rookie running back primer. I just needed some kind of association with a couple of these names. So when I'm in these drafts, I'm not just completely walking around blind. Gretch, are you getting a little rookie fever, a little dino fever here?
Definitely. This has been a lot of fun. I'm obviously not doing a bunch of underdog drafts, but so I'm less like engaged in terms of you're already seeing all these names going off on boards and trying to figure out who's what. But hearing Pat chat about it was, got me half chub at least.
Little half chub.
Yeah.
I will say to the listeners, I took a bullet here. I joined a slow draft so I could reference all these ADPs. I'm in a slow
thanks
draft,
for putting $10. Putting fucking $10 back into the ecosystem.
It's about my time, Pete. It's about my time, not the money. I'm gonna have to deal with these slow draft notifications now for the next 2 weeks. So, but I did it for you guys.
Well, we can do a live big board draft in the coming weeks, as well as diving into our favorite position, the wide receivers. Also, circling back on that form for Omnifantasy, I just got it in the chat right now. This is to get signed up for the Omni Cup. Just need very basic information. If you're listening to the audio version, I will post this in the show notes as well. I'll put it in the Discord Omnifantasy channel. Any other comments on the form, Gretch?
No, it's just name and Twitter handle and I think email, because I'm going to send out an email to the group. You do have to put an email in there. Some people last year just wrote fake emails or whatever. I created a BCC email thread to give information so I could keep track of the whole contest. There was 144 people, 12 teams of 12 last year. I need somewhere to be able to keep track of communications to everyone if there's something that needs to be brought out. There'll only be a couple emails, but I do appreciate if you can give me an email that you'll actually get.
BW says, if you were in Omni last year, automatically get in. No, you have to sign up again, right?
Yeah, sign up again. I'm going to send an email to that group probably tomorrow and with more information, but it'll have the link to the form there. It'll ask you to sign up again.
Yep.
Guys, there's a rankings tab on Underdog apparently.
Yeah, I told the chat to chill out. Otherwise, Pat's never going to give any money back. We got to make him think he has to draft to get this data.
I didn't have to draft this stupid slow draft.
Pat, you'll fucking love You were listening to fantasy football pods in Vietnam. You can deal with one fucking slow draft.
I know. I'll love it. All right, I took Tyreek Hill 105. I'm already excited.
There we go. Love it. Love it. Anything else on your guys' radar? Anything to plug here?
Nope.
Drive to Survive's coming back on Netflix. Get excited.
Wow. Yeah. No, because Pat, we're trying to help Ben out with getting people to chill out about F1 in Omni, and you're just like, let's get all hyped about F1 again.
Well, F1's amazing, and Drive to Survive's even better. So I'm sorry. Yeah. It's a bad fit for Omni because it's a super top-heavy sport. But it's still a great sport. Watch it.
There's no entry fee to Omni. Obviously, if you do your own separate leagues and you want to do a buy-in or whatever with your friends, just like you would a fantasy league, you are welcome to. We can maybe throw in some prizes for the Ship Chasing Cup when we spin that up. Weird question. What do you guys think about dynasty rookie draft before real NFL draft? I don't like a specific rookie draft before NFL draft, but I am pro startup draft.
I like that actually. I have a couple leagues that do that, and I really enjoy. And the oldest dynasty league I'm in has always done that, and I've always really enjoyed the pre-real draft, rookie draft. It creates more values. I mean, if you're plugged in, there will be some people in your league that aren't as plugged in, and they kind of just grab some hype guys that it's become kind of clear, like from their combine and their pre-offseason stuff, like if they don't get great capital, they're going to be like complete busts, and they'll go super high. And you get these are the types of leagues where, like, because of Pat's work, I was getting like Ramondre in the 3rd round every time, and I was like, this is awesome. So
there's a much bigger edge doing it before the NFL draft, because draft capital is the biggest signal. Like any model that you build would have draft capital as the number one thing if you're trying to predict anything. And so to have that not there as, like, you know, the training wheels for everybody, then you actually, I mean, you obviously, to Ben's point, you want to be thinking a lot about who's going to have good draft capital, who had a good combine, and trying to factor that in. But if you have an edge in general, that I think that edge will be magnified pre-draft.
Yep.
I mean, the favorite thing to do, I love doing the startup drafts that include the rookie picks themselves and not the players. That's really fun. I think even like ETR's rankings, I think they generally like slot in their dynasty rankings, like the rookie picks value within like the existing veterans. I think that's always a cool way to look at it.
That's always fun. And I would always say I've screwed that up with those picks. It's intuitive, but you can, you know, I've made the mistake. Those picks are more valuable than whatever player you like at that pick, right? Like your 5th, wherever you have your 5th rookie, the 105 is more valuable than that 5th rookie because it's a liquid asset that you can trade. Maybe the guy who you like 4th falls to 5th, especially if you get to 8th, 9th. Like that pick's more valuable than your 8th or 9th value.
Or somebody you're down on, somebody else is high on and values higher at 105 than you particularly value the 105.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
your 7th ranked guy is someone else's 5th, and they're higher than where you see your 5th guy.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone else isn't drafting off your boards. So you can get, like, even if you see like a decent tier break after 7 or something, like the 108 can still be really valuable because you might be getting one of your top 7 guys.
All right, guys, we're going to power it down. Thank you for hanging out tonight, chat. Thank you for roasting us for our brutal pronunciations. We will get there one show at a time. Zachariah Chardonnay himself. Be safe out there with your scuba diving. Don't get the bends. Don't come up too quickly. Make sure you pace your breathing. For Gretch, for Pat, I'm Pete. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Peace.